What's going on, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be talking about fighting, street self-defense, and really the appropriate time to defend yourself and to fight outside of a competition, outside of the gym, more of a street self-defense manner. And really the only thing that I can offer you is my experience with this. I can't go into anybody else and give you anyone's point of view other than mine. So the reason why I think this is so important to talk about is because there's so many different variables when it comes to fighting, right? So there's not one specific variable, meaning you're not going to get the same size matchup. Somebody might be shorter than you, fatter than you, taller than you, more muscular than you. Somebody might be holding a weapon of some sort. If you choose to train, I think it's very important to know when you decide to put that knowledge in your mind, you have just received a loaded weapon in a lot of ways. You have received these powers in which you can inflict a lot of damage on an individual if you so choose to. So the very first time that I had a real altercation was when I was at this house party. Of course, I was drinking and smoking with some of my friends, and the guys that I was with were shorter than me, smaller than me. Two of my Indian friends. This was freshman year of college, and we decided to go out to this party. And at the time, I was living in a nursing dorm room. I thought I was going to become a nurse when I was done with college. Still not done with college, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to graduate in exactly. But anyways, it was me, a few guys, and a lot of girls that went to this party. Long story short, after the party, we're walking out, and one of the girls starts crying. Meanwhile, I'm talking to the host of the party, all of these guys that are sitting around in the family room area, and it was real country. This party was real country. You could see like deer heads on the wall and like fucking antlers. So I kind of assumed that these guys had guns, had some form of weapons and whatnot. Anyways, we're about to walk out, and I see one of my friends crying, this bigger girl. And one of the guys that I was with said, dude, that's really fucked up, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's making, one of the guys in their group was making fun of her weight, and something just went off in my head. I just felt the need to go back. Maybe it was an ego thing. Maybe it was driven completely out of ego. The fact that I needed to go back in there and say something to maybe prove myself in front of all my friends that I was with. I was fucking 18 at the time, right? So I'm going through like a lot of hormones, a lot of changes in my body, and I said something. I went back in that house after I walked out 5 or 10 feet, and I basically said, that's really fucked up. You guys are a bunch of bitches, and who the fuck are you to talk to this girl like that, yada, yada, yada. From that moment forward was when complete chaos took place, and there was over 7 guys that just stood up, that were all sitting down on these couches and just booked it out the door. And my friend pulls me out to the street and is trying to calm me down. She's like, Chris, calm down. Calm down. This is fucking stupid. Let's go home. And I was like, yeah, whatever, fine. This is stupid. I'm not going to do anything. I look over, and there's my friend, Z. That's what he liked to be called. And again, he's a shorter guy. He's not that muscular. He's really small compared to me. And I look over and see these big ass white dudes pouring alcohol on top of his head. They're pouring alcohol on top of his head and his body and throwing the beer cans at him and calling him a sand nigger. Get the fuck out of our country, you fucking sand nigger, this, that. And insulting his racial background. Something just went off in my head. And again, there's a lot of things happening during this night. I'm under the influence. I'm drinking. I'm smoking. I was in the middle of the street. I just remember taking my shirt off so they don't have anything to grab onto. I took my shirt off, put it on a car that was nearby, and sprinted towards these guys that were harassing my friend, knocked one of them to the ground, just put my shoulder down and went straight through him. He flew on the grass, and then all of the other guys started charging me. So now they're off of my friends and they're charging me. There was one guy that I hit in the face, and then a few other men that were coming my way that I decided to just throw. So I grabbed the back of their neck and I was moving backwards. I just remember moving backwards, staying light on my feet, not stopping, not letting them surround me. And all of them were just coming at me. And I was lining them up like I was creating angles down the road here, so they can't surround me from any which way. And they're pretty much just like lining themselves up like you see in the zombie games or whatever. And I'm throwing a lot of these guys. Eventually we get back to the car. My friend Z, I told him to get in his car. The guys surround me or whatever, but they didn't do anything to me. I think they were afraid of my size. I don't even know. The fact that I had enough balls to say something, right? None of them pulled out a weapon, but there was over 7 guys there in that type of environment where it could have easily escalated. Somebody took out a knife, somebody had a gun, whatever. We were fortunate enough to make it out of that situation. Now, I told you that I was with 2 friends. One friend came in with me to the party. The other friend was in the car because he never made it out of the car because he was so sick from drinking too much alcohol. He had the window rolled down, and some guy, as we were taking off in the car, just went up and sucker punched his ass in the face. And he was injured for like the next few days. It was just so messed up. He was just sleeping in the car and just whoa, whack. And we drove off. My friend Z was driving, and that was that. Like, no one got shot, no one got stabbed, but that was really the first altercation that I was in over the age of 18. And if I could point out a few things here, with the drinking, with the smoking, with me being around my friends, my peers, like in a deep way, like I wanted their respect. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to stick up for them. I wanted to kind of show off what I know from a wrestling and boxing background, and really allow my inner lion to come out, to unleash a part of myself that I don't really get to unleash. And I think that there's this thought in a practitioner's mind. If you train, if you train martial arts in any type of way, I think there's always a thought, man, what could I do in a situation if somebody were to test me? Like, how bad would I be able to fuck somebody up given what I know? You know, with the limitations and the strengths that I have, all of that. What could I do? And that really ran through my mind a lot. And it was scary because in that particular moment, I didn't really even think you know, my head was just shut off. And I guess the scary thing about that is that like when you know how to fight and you know like leverage points and you know how to really hurt somebody, and your head shuts off, you can kill somebody, you know, in like a very extreme way. You hit somebody and their head hits the concrete, or somebody is attacking you with a weapon. Like, if I could go back and tell myself a few words of advice, it would be that you are a weapon, a bodily weapon, but that doesn't stop a pistol from shooting you, right? That doesn't stop a knife from piercing your skin. You're not the fucking Hulk. You're not Iron Man, you know? That was the first fight that I got into, and that was with multiple people. The second fight that I got into was when I was studying. I was sober, by the way, I think. It was sophomore year. I was going to shoot pool. That's what I usually did at my apartment. Shoot pool and then play, not play, my God, but study, right? And I was going to shoot pool, and then I felt something hit me. I thought it was a water balloon, but then they just started like raining down, and I started to look around, and there's like yellow like splatters all over the place, and it was eggs that were being thrown at me, and it hit my arm. It didn't even really get on my clothes, but I just remember being so pissed off, and I was feeling very manic that day. The reason why I say this is because your state of mind is such a huge psychological factor for if you will fight or if you are going to avoid a fight. And I just know for myself, when I'm feeling more high, not even like with a drug or anything like that, but in my own mind, like I can get there sometimes just based on my physiology and experiences that I've been through. I know when depression is going to hit. I know when I'm going to have more manic states. And when I'm more manic, that's when I tend to push the boundaries a little bit more. And I just remember feeling like invincible that night. And I looked up to go see what room it was after they threw the eggs at me. I went up to the fourth or fifth floor. I made a sharp turn to my right outside of the elevators, and their room was right there. Knocked on it, and it was this big ass dude that answered. He was a basketball player for the college I'm going to, and he was with his homies who I'm guessing were also basketball players because they were all over like 6'5", 6'6" height. And, you know, I was kind of mentally shitting myself a little bit, but I wasn't going to let this go. So I said, you know, hey, what the fuck are you guys doing? You're throwing eggs. This is bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Now, with this fight in particular, I had a couple months worth of martial art training, meaning more karate type training, where it was Taekwondo, Krav Maga, Muay Thai, a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But the main background that I had was wrestling and boxing. So I knew like a little bit of the fundamentals going into that fight. And basically I said, hey, look, you know, I want an apology. This is fucking stupid and this shouldn't be happening. And he said, well, obviously you want to fight because you brought your pool stick up here. You're trying to like beat someone's ass with that. I'm like, no, I don't need a pool stick to fight. And he's like, oh, so you're saying you want to fight, like blah, blah, blah. And these guys have been drinking. So I'm all up in my head. You know, I'm just like, I'm not going to let them do this to me. I'm fucking, you know, this and that, and only show them what I know. And I was a little afraid, to be honest, but I knew what I can do. And I remember him taking off his glasses and putting them on the counter. Him and his friends walking out. And he's like, all right, bro, let's do this. And I set my backpack down. So fucking stupid, over some eggs. And we're about to fight. And again, I took my shirt off because I didn't want him grabbing it or anything like that. And we started going. I remember throwing, oh my God, this was so stupid. I was watching an Anderson Silva fight before I went to go study. And the first move that I threw on him was a jab into an up elbow. So I went jab, up elbow. But it didn't even get close to his face because he was so tall. So then it hit me, leg kick him. So I just started kicking his legs. I think after a while, he got tired of that, so he tried to rush me. But I knew a little bit of wrestling from high school, so I took him over my shoulder, ended up in cross-sides on the wall. He started getting up, sliding his body up the wall, super strong, just bench pressed me off him. But I was able to grab his head and knee him in the face as he got up. And I just remember his mouth pouring out, bleeding. My ankle is really hurting by this point because I'm kicking him, but I'm using my foot. I'm not using my shin like how they teach you in Muay Thai. So, and again, I was only like a couple months into martial art training, so I was a little bit off when it came to like a live situation. And I remember him getting up and he just felt his mouth, saw the blood, and we went for a few more minutes. My main thing was keeping my eyes on his friends. I didn't want my back to be turned towards his friends because I knew, like, you know, these guys are drinking. They might stomp my small ass out if I get small compared to them, right? Like, they might stomp me out, choke me out if I turn my back towards them. Basically, I walked away from the situation really unharmed. I didn't get any hits to the face. He didn't know how to kick, and that's a lot of the times people that don't know martial arts and that want to test you in a street fight typically don't really train. And I say this because the people that are trained, they're not going out and looking, I feel most of the time, they're not going out and looking to test people. They're being tested constantly in the gym, whether it's sparring, practice. And honestly, like, when I'm going out now, after a few years of training, I just want to enjoy my fucking night. Like, I'm going through so much during the week with training and constantly getting a beat down for people that are better than me, or me giving a beat down for people who are at like a lesser skill level than me. So it goes hand in hand. But when I go out, I'm more in a mental frame now where it's like, how can I avoid this situation? And, you know, I really felt cool after these situations happened. I felt like I kind of had a chip on my shoulder. Like, yeah, you know, I proved myself. I did something meaningful. I did something good. I taught those guys a lesson, and I taught them a lesson. And I guess, like, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't take that back because it was an expansion of my character. It was eye-opening, to say the least, to be in those situations and to really be in a self-defense situation, whether it be multiple people or one person. And me and that guy, we did shake hands after the fight. He said, like, look, bro, I'm sorry. That was fucking stupid. And I'm like, look, man, it's all good. We figured this shit out, right? And we shook hands. But, like, oftentimes it's not going to end like that. Like, I feel like the atmosphere of being at a college party or being on near a college campus is much different than being out and about on the street and you're about to get in an altercation. You don't know what the hell is about to happen. And for me, I kind of felt safe just given the situation of being so close to school, basically living on the university, that I didn't even really think twice about that person having a handgun or a knife or doing anything stupid like that. And I knew that they were on the basketball team, so that would fuck up their scholarship, blah, 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 blah. But this is me just being super analytical, and looking really deep into things. I didn't grow up in like the best part of town as a kid, so I have some street smarts when it comes to that. When it comes to reading people with what they can do, with what connections they have and stuff like that. When I was younger as a kid, I used to run the streets a little bit. Like, I was living in Oak Park on the weekend sometimes with my dad and my older brother and older sister. And I mean, we didn't have like the best parental supervision when we were over there, so we'd kind of be doing our own thing. At least, my older brother and I would be. I got into a few altercations, but like the main thing that I learned from growing up in a more chaotic environment is how to handle yourself, and knowing when it's time to put your foot down. Because there comes a time when you're being bullied or something like that comes up and you need to address the situation. And I mean, they teach you in school, like, run and get a teacher, or run and, go tell somebody. Well, a teacher may not always be there. Your mommy and daddy might not always be there. So for you to stick up for yourself in very particular times, I think is crucial to the development of your character. And again, like, usually when things came up for me in terms of wanting to hurt somebody or defend myself or defend my friends or family, has been when I was under the influence, or when somebody was verbally or physically harassing somebody that I know. Now, here's the thing, and this is where it gets really deep, and I'm going to get really close to my face because this is going to get real. I think when it comes to street self-defense, the time when I was in this crazy mental fog, when I felt like I had to prove myself, and I have to hurt people if they hurt me. I have to physically harm people if they cross me or anything like that, was when my mental space was really out of whack. I mean, I was smoking a lot. I was drinking a lot. I remember drinking a shit ton of like NyQuil to go to sleep at one point in my life. I was going through a crazy breakup with this girl that I was with for 3+ years or whatever. And all of this started compacting on my head. And then it turned into a physical manifestation of not just the fighting and not just like the going out of my way to like put my foot down and show people who I am. But I remember either slacking on my schoolwork sometimes, or slacking on being clean and picking up my room, and basic things like that, where like physical manifestations started to take place, and it started expressing itself beyond my mind. I remember there was one night where I had almost like a mental breakdown. I was drinking, and I started thinking about a lot of shit, and I was really pissed off, and I just started hitting the ground and punching the ground and stuff like that. And I was really angry inside, and I had a lot of things in my head. And I think as a young man, a young person, what everybody goes through is that crisis of self-identity and trying to figure out who the fuck you are and what you're trying to become. And And if you have been through past traumas, whether it be through the home environment that you grew up in, or car crashes, or um, for me, like I had a lot of physical trauma, like my lung collapsed at a young age. I got into a really bad car accident. My body held on to a lot of that physical trauma, and then on top of the home life that I grew up in at a really young age, all wrapped itself around my mental state of mind. And I say this to get to my final conclusion that you need to worry about self-defense, street self-defense, I think at an all-time high when your mental state is really fucked up and out of whack. I think that you draw things into your life based on the energy that you are.